Correspondent Lukhanyo Calata. Lukhanyo, good evening to you. I suppose the first thing we need to ask is precisely what are the issues that these people need to answer to that Parliamentary Portfolio Committee?
Bongani, good evening. The committee has been sitting obviously now for a few months, and obviously the Gupta brothers have been implicated in them trying to manage the issues at Eskom from the outside. I'm sure, of course, you would remember that last year in November there was a lady called Suzanne Daniels who came to the committee and told them how a former minister or former deputy minister Ben Martins had introduced her to the Guptas, and how the Guptas were trying to talk about how they plan to essentially to manipulate disciplinary hearings within Eskom and those kinds of issues. Obviously, one of the things that was also mentioned, for instance, against Dudu Myeni was the fact that she had known beforehand that some top executives at Eskom would be suspended. So the committee wants to call them in, and obviously, just for them to give their side of this of the story. They have been implicated in some very serious allegations, and I think it would be obviously unfair from the committee to go ahead and not at least allow the Guptas, Duduzane, Zuma, as well as Dudu Myeni, the opportunity for them to answer for themselves. Bongan.
You mentioned Suzanne Daniels. Of course, she was the former executive who initiated that 1.6 billion rand letter of demand in terms of the monies that were paid to McKinsey and Trillion. We're now seeing, of course, that those monies might indeed make their way back to Eskom finally. But ultimately, what we're talking about here is lots of money. This is serious business, and these questions do need to be answered.
Of course, as you pointed out, 1.6 billion rand that was paid out to McKinsey. There's allegations that Eskom had helped the Guptas acquire a coal mine. So there's all kinds of allegations, and that all of them, the Gupta family, AJ, Atul, as well as Rajesh, all of them have been implicated in serious matters of state capture. So, and with this inquiry that's ongoing, the laws of natural justice, they must be given their side to come and respond to some of the allegations, and just to clarify their names. I think, the committee chairperson, when I spoke to her a little bit earlier on, did say to me that it is, it's heartbreaking for them that they can't get hold of the Guptas, that they can't get hold of Duduzane, Zuma, as well as Dudu Myeni. But the show will go on. They will in the end submit their report to Parliament, even if that means that they submitted without the responses from the Guptas, from Duduzane, Zuma, as well as Dudu Myeni. I mean, it's unfortunate that if that's the case, but the Parliamentary Committee does have a deadline, and they do need to meet that deadline of mid-June 2018. Bongan.
The cynic will say, these are very high-profile individuals. They've got a number of residences in the country which are quite clearly known. For example, Dudu Myeni is said to be an advisor to the Minister of Transport. Is an exception being made here that perhaps still because of their connections to people in high office and in power, that they really are thumbing their nose to Parliament?
There is no other way to explain it, Bongani. I think the fact that we know that Dudu Myeni has received at least 3 letters from Parliament, and each time she has snubbed them. She's basically just said, well, I can't travel because I'm sick, or my lawyer isn't in the country at this moment, so I was unable to travel. We were unable to look at those documents. I think the perception does exist, particularly throughout South Africa, that because there is an alleged close relationship between Dudu Myeni as well as the former President Jacob Zuma, that they now feel feel, or that she at least feels, that she can treat Parliament in this way. How true that is, Bongani, I mean, it remains to be seen, because Dudu Myeni still needs to come and speak for herself. The Guptas as well, the fact that they also are alleged to have a very close relationship with President Jacob Zuma, who obviously is now facing his own charges. So I think to some extent the Guptas, Duduzane, Zuma, even Dudu Myeni, they would have looked at the surrounding circumstances around former President Jacob Zuma at the moment, and they would have seen that, look, there are all of these allegations against us. There's action being taken against President Jacob Zuma. So, it's preservation of themselves. And to some extent, I am not surprised that, we're seeing this kind of response from the Guptas, Duduzane, Zuma and Dudu Myeni. Bongan?
Well, Lukhanya, we'll see how the Hawks weigh in on this based on the package that you reported a little earlier on, and we'll monitor this story in the coming days. That's Lukhanya Kalata, our parliamentary correspondent there from Cape Town.